Hey there everyone, welcome back to Jimothy Listens. I am Jimothy, and today I'm not listening to anything, but instead I'm going to be talking about something that I have been listening to a lot of in the past couple days, and that is the new album from Charli XCX, Crash. That's right, Charli XCX is back. As anyone who knows me would know, I'm a big Charli XCX fan. I wasn't always. It took me a while to sort of come around to her, I'm going to be honest. The first Charli XCX album I actually listened to from front to back was How I'm Feeling Now, her most recent album, which still is my favorite of hers, but since then I've gone back and listened to almost all of them. Haven't actually got around to Pop 2 yet. We'll get there one day. But I love Charli XCX. I think her first couple of albums, while not being stunning, sort of interesting, especially for like pop music at the time. And then of course, Charli and How I'm Feeling Now have sort of shaped electronic experimental pop music today, sort of created this big hyperpop sound that people like to ride now. And so definitely huge fan of everything that she's done. And was very excited for this one because the singles in the lead up sort of hinted that we were, well, not hinted, but pretty much outright stated we were going in a very different direction, that being one of a more mainstream pop sound, which was polarizing. A lot of people I saw around the release of the first few singles, like Good Ones especially, which was the first one, were kind of suspicious, a little bit hesitant, bit skeptical because of the more just sort of straightforward pop sound of it. Personally, I was into it. I thought it was a good track. I didn't love it as much as the previous stuff, but I did like the song. I thought it went hard, and so I was kind of okay with it. The next single we got was New Shapes, the incredible crossover of Charli, Christine and the Queens, and Caroline Polachek. And apart from having all of that talent on one track, it also has a great booming pop production sound, incredible chorus, great feel, love the guest verses, Caroline's especially, the way it dips down, gorgeous. So I was here for that. Then we got Beg For You, which was a strange one because I am a huge Rina Sawayama fan. I am an incredibly big Rina Sawayama fan. Her debut album, Sawayama, is probably my favorite album ever released. So when I heard that they were collabing together, obviously I was extremely excited. And then the song came out and a lot of people hated it. And I don't think they're entirely wrong. I like the song. I love the sample that it uses. I think that's a great idea, and I think it's a bop. I do kind of wish it went harder though, and it does get a little bit weak, but I still was here for it, and I was still into the mainstream pop direction. And then the final single that was dropped, okay, I guess not technically final because Every Rule was dropped like 3 days before the album came out, but the final one that I heard going into the album was Baby, which, oh, that's a track. It's hot, it's fast-paced, it's frantic, and it just goes for it. So with those 4 tracks going into the album, it sort of seemed like it could go either way, and I think a lot of people were quite suspicious about it. So I'm very glad to say that Crash absolutely delivers. It slaps. I'm really enjoying listening to it. I think the more mainstream pop sound was really a genius move. Obviously, the work that Charli and A.G. Cook had done on the past few albums to sort of create this new sound, this new future of pop has been amazing, and I'm sure she can always come back to that and do more of it. But what Crash does beautifully is it still experiments and feels definitively Charli XCX while just being a great pop, which I know might sound like a backhanded compliment to people who don't love pop music. But for someone like me who is just unabashedly a fan of straight pop music, it's amazing. It's wonderful. And I love that we're able to do this in pop music now. We're able to have just a straight pop album that's really good. The thing about Crash that I think makes it so special is that every single song holds its own. There's no weak links. In my opinion, the weakest link is Beg For You, which is still a bop. And other than that, every single track is A, a great song, and B, stands on its own. Like, Charli could release any of these songs as singles and they'd be able to have that hype. They'd be able to live up to the expectations of a single. They could dominate the radio. Every single song on this album has that big banger sound, which is incredible. I actually, after listening to it the first time in a daze at like 3 a.m., I wrote down like an essay that I titled Crash is Western K-pop. And I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I'm gonna kind of summarize it to give you an idea, especially for the people who are immediately gonna be like, absolutely not, don't you even dare compare Charli to K-pop. Firstly, Charli loves K-pop. Charli's crossed over with BTS. Even for the remix of Beg For You, she got Vernon from 17. We're K-pop stans in this house. But my argument for Crash being a sort of Western equivalent of K-pop is that I think, for me personally, what makes K-pop so enticing and addictive is the formula for creating songs. And that formula is 2 simple steps. Every single K-pop song has a concept and a point. So first you have the concept. And the concept is a very broad idea. It could be many different things. It could be the story that's being told in the song. It could be the genre or genres that are being used. It could be the feeling that it expresses. There's so many things that the concept could be, but the important part is that the concept is some overarching thing to make the song stand out as more than just a pop song. It has some reason to exist rather than just, hey, I made a song. The second thing that it has is the point. And the point is super important in pop music, and that's the thing that makes the song memorable. It might be a catchy chorus, it might be an incredible vocal performance, it could be some killer production, but it's something that when people listen to it, it's going to trigger in their heads, it's going to release dopamine, and it's going to stick with them after the song's over. Because that's super important, especially in pop music, where you're delivering pretty simple songs in 2.5, 3 minutes. You need to have people thinking about it after it's done, so they're going to come back to it. And so that's where the point comes in. The point is there purely to prey on that animalistic impulses in people's brains that once that dopamine is triggered, they go, I need more of that, and they come back for more. So those are the 2 things you have, the concept and the point. And that is demonstrated so well in K-pop. And I think Charli has used that formula for Crash for every single song on the album. Like, even though the songs on Crash all come from different eras of pop music, every single song Charli has put on this album stands on its own. It has a concept to make it stand out, and then it has a point to make it stick in your head. So if you take the opening song, Crash, the title track. Welcome to the show, Doja Cat. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. No? Are we? Anyway, the opening track, Crash, has the concept of, bringing the listeners into the story of the album. It introduces the themes of really a car crash, something going off the rails, something getting out of control. And it introduces that concept not only in the lyrics, but also in the sound, taking a sort of classic pop bass, a very old school Janet Jackson, New Jack Swing type beat, but with these big crashing sounds coming in to really amp up the energy and make it seem just a little out of control. It's an amazing way to start off the album. It's one of my favorite tracks on the album. So it has this concept that's interesting and makes it stand out. And then the point to make it stick in your head, Charli's melodies. Like, I definitely just in my head get on repeat various parts of the song, including the I'm about to crash, I'm about to crash, I'm about to crash, I'm about to crash, I'm about to crash. Or even the melody in the chorus that just drills its way into your head with the I don't know the words. But it has those 2 elements. It has the concept and it has the point to make it hook its way immediately into your brain. And every song does this. Like, I could go through each of the tracks, but I'm not going to because that would take forever. But they all have individual concepts and sounds that make them stand out, and then points to make them stick in your head and make you think about them even after the song's done. And it's this that makes Crash such a great pop album. It can take all of these different things, different sounds, different styles, and merge them together into something seamless, because it's using a similar formula for each song, which, even though it's doing all of these different things means that each song can stand together and form a nice overarching whole. And what adds to this cohesive feeling and making this more than just a collection of great tracks is Charli's writing and ability to tell stories. What I love about Charli XCX, and the reason why How I'm Feeling Now is my favorite album of hers and one of my favorite albums ever, is because not only is it amazing sounds and incredible music, but Charli just has this knack of being able to make you feel whatever she's feeling. Charli has such a talent of expressing with her voice and putting so much emotion and character into it that it immediately just makes you feel whatever she wants you to feel. And Crash does this amazingly. Sure, it may not seem initially as emotionally powerful as How I'm Feeling Now, but Crash does it in a really clever way that could only be done with the mainstream pop sound. The reason mainstream pop is mainstream pop is because it's accessible to everyone instantly without needing to be thought about. You don't need to analyze mainstream pop. You don't need to listen to it a few times to get the idea of it. It just comes on, and before your brain even recognizes what's happening, you're bobbing along to it, you're feeling it, you're vibing it. Charli takes that and she exploits this pathway, this road that mainstream pop has to skip the brain, skip anything else, and just inject itself directly into the heart, the soul, the subconscious, whatever you want to call it, which usually is only used to put vibes in there and beats and melodies. Charli hijacks it and she starts to infuse that with emotions and stories and different feelings and the ever-growing insecurity of the album that even starts off in quite a turbulent place, but then just ramps up until the final song, Twice, is literally just her pondering what she'd do if the world was ending. It takes all of these stories and drives them down that highway to skip past the brain, to skip past any sort of rational thought, and just immediately sink right into the body to make you feel these songs deeper than you would ever expect to from a mainstream pop album. And that's what to me makes Crash so good. The way that it takes these songs that can all stand on their own as individual giant and put them together to make something that's even more than the sum of its parts is incredible. I think Charli's done a great job on this album, and it should be recognized as a huge victory for her. Now, do I like it as much as, say, How I'm Feeling Now? Probably not, but I don't think I was ever going to, and I don't think it's meant to be compared directly like that. It's a different thing. So yeah, I am in love with Crash. I have been listening to it non-stop since it came out. I think it's wonderful. What do you think about it? What do you think about it? Have you heard it? Do you like it? Do you think it's a good move for Charli? Do you think it's a step backwards? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I've been Jimothy. Subscribe for more music talk, and I'll see you in the next video. Catch ya.